Oftentimes people that smoke marijuana, they'll say things like, well, some other drug is worse. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe some other drug is worse. But what you need to know about marijuana isn't significantly different than any of the other drugs of abuse, than the effects of tobacco, or some of the effects of alcohol, or some of the effects of the other drugs. It may be no worse, it may be no better. It's just like all the rest. The three most significant hallmarks of addiction include tolerance. Does it take more to get the same effect? Did I start smoking marijuana once a month and then move up to once a week and then move up to daily? Does it take more for you to get the same effect? That's tolerance. Another is using despite negative consequences. Have you gotten in trouble? Have you had legal infractions related to your marijuana use? Have you had family problems related to your marijuana use? Have you had school or occupational problems as a result of some of the side effects of marijuana use? You have to take a look at the whole gamut to see what kind of negative consequences you've experienced, but one of the hallmarks of addiction is continuing to use anyway. The last, third hallmark of addiction is withdrawal. Withdrawal is kind of tricky on marijuana because marijuana, THC, is a long-acting drug in the body. It takes time for it to dissipate or to become completely metabolized and excreted from the body. That's why it's one of the easiest drugs to pick up in a urine drug screen.
I first started smoking weed when I was 12 with my brother.
Lost my education. I barely have any friends anyway now.
Sometimes chronic marijuana smokers become kind of isolated, and people will start to change their peer groups. They tend to hang out less with people that don't use marijuana and start to choose friends based upon who smokes marijuana. Now, I see people coming into treatment services, and I oftentimes see chronic marijuana smokers who say, everybody I know smokes marijuana the same way I do. And I say, well, it's no wonder. You've carefully selected your friends over a period of years. So no wonder all of them smoke marijuana all day, every day, just like you. But most kids in our society do not smoke marijuana all day, every day.
When did you start?
When I was 12.
When you were 12? When did you drop out of school?
When I was a freshman.
Freshman?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that's come up while you've been listening?
Yeah.
What?
I'd wrestle, and I would play football a lot, and I skated a lot. And like, when I started using, it took that all away. It made me so that when I wanted to skate, I'd rather go out and I'd rather use than I would skate.
What'd you give up? What sport?
I gave up wrestling. I was pretty good at it. I gave up football because I didn't have enough grades and I didn't actually go to school. I didn't care anymore because I'd rather go off and smoke weed and hang out with my friends. And that just messed everything up from then on in.
Did you ever think it would do anything?
I didn't really think it would do anything because I was told that it was natural and stuff. So I thought it was just, if it was natural and it was grown, that it couldn't hurt you. So I thought that it wouldn't give me any health damages or anything.
Today's genetically engineered marijuana that's grown in people's basements in buckets of chemicals is far from natural. And I oftentimes hear people say, I smoke it because it's natural. But the truth is that most of the chronic marijuana users that oftentimes use that as a justification to continue smoking, I smoke it because it's natural, oftentimes these are the same people that actually hate natural marijuana. And they have derogatory names for real, true natural marijuana. They call it stuff like swag, bammer, beaster, hay, lumber, dirtweed, brownweed, browntown. These are all derogatory names for natural marijuana. And I'll say to some of these marijuana addicts, I'll say, well, I don't understand. You say that you smoke because it's natural, but you hate natural marijuana. So why don't you make up your mind? Which is it?
The person I know that grows weed, he grows tomatoes the same way he grows weed, and then they're unnatural too. Tomatoes, he grows them to make like plumper tomatoes, and he grows bud to grow plumper buds. Same way. It's just like, it's not like he puts any like, he does put like plant food in them, like same food that you put in there. And is that unnatural?
Let's back up here. Before anybody fertilized anything, and it grew out of the ground, wasn't that when everything was natural, the tomatoes, everything else? But let's talk about smoking marijuana the way it came out of the ground before anybody did anything to it. Is that when it's natural?
Yeah. There's weed in like, there's that grow in gutters in like the middle of like the United States. They just sit there and grow like on the side of the ground. That stuff don't get you high.
Not much. That's why they had to adjust it.
I know, but it's not even considered weed. It's like it's marijuana, but it's not.
That's natural marijuana.
That's natural marijuana.
Today's marijuana is far from natural. It is genetically engineered to produce more THC and more cannabinoids than it has in the past. So much so that these cannabinoids ooze out of the buds and form crystals on the exterior of the buds. This is quite different than marijuana that was around back in the 1960s. Now the best marijuana has white crystals on the exterior of the buds, and users call it crystally bud. And they look for very specific characteristics for the strongest form of marijuana that they can get to produce the most euphoria.
So to say that what people generally smoke now is natural, the way it was, grown, without anybody planting it, picking the best plants, it's not.
Then how'd they figure out it got you high? Like
How'd they figure out tobacco got you high?
Smoke it. Yeah, but if it wasn't, okay, if it takes unnatural marijuana to get you high, then how did they like figure out that it got you high in the first place? How did they make it grow THC?
Go ahead.
You say that marijuana is natural, right? And that like they had to find out some way. Well, how they found out was like Native Americans, really, and Native Americans smoked it in ceremonies, just like peyote, and it didn't give them a high, really. It gave them a body change. It wasn't that, oh man, this is great. It was just kind of a little body change,
THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, is the psychoactive drug contained in marijuana. We know that natural marijuana, which grows wild in the US, ranges around 1% THC. But today's marijuana is much stronger, that is grown in people's basements in buckets of chemicals, genetically engineered marijuana. That marijuana goes all the way up to 33.6% THC, 33 times stronger than natural marijuana.
Don't you think it's really important that you ask these questions, this is what we talk about being honest, that you say this is what I believe and this is why it was okay for me to smoke it, and to really, I think it's really okay to say this is what I believed and this is why I believed it. Because unless you get this stuff out there honestly, you're not going to be able to look at it and make your own choice for what's best for you. So I think it's a good job. So you started smoking weed, how old were you?
Actually, I only started smoking weed about 1.5 years ago.
And you started smoking weed because
I was told not to do it.
Okay, so you smoked it. Did you like it?
Oh yeah, I liked it.
And then what happened? You started smoking. How much were you smoking once a week?
I was smoking, like, when I first started, I used more than I did at the at my end of my using, because at first I wasn't on probation when I started
How'd you get on probation?
marijuana.
What exactly happened?
I got caught at school with a book that I had 6/8 in, and I had about $200 with me. So they automatically the first thing that ran through their minds was distribution.
Where'd you get the money to
Money.
buy it?
I do odd jobs for my grandpa and my grandpa's friends, things like that. During summer I'd drive a tractor, and I'd work for my stepdad a lot because he had a construction business, and I had a lot of money from that, and I had money, and I was saving it up actually for a car, but I ended up just blowing it on weed all the time, like, because I'd just go to the bank, I'd pull out $300, I'd go buy an ounce, I'd go get a bunch of alcohol, and we'd throw a party.
People can develop dependency on marijuana. I had one highly paid construction worker that was in one of my groups who was spending $1,800 a month for premium grade marijuana. So you really have to ask yourself, how much are you spending for marijuana every week, every month? Are you spending $10 a day? Are you spending $40 a day? How much is that a month? $1,200. Where do you get $1,200 a month to spend on marijuana?
I was always the one supplying, and everybody liked me, and the money ran out.
So then, did you get more money, or did you quit throwing parties?
Oh no, I found ways to get money. Me and my friends would hustle people, or we would, I had my bike, and I sold my bike, and then I got another bike, and I sold that bike, and I got a third bike, and I sold that bike.
Where'd you get the bikes?
I asked my grandparents, they'd send me money.
So where did you tell them all these bikes were going?
I said they were getting stolen.
So you're now lying?
Yeah, it's just, I'd get skateboards all the time because I had a sponsorship for skating, and I'd go to a skate park and I'd sell a brand new complete for $20-$40 just to go get an eighth or a dub.
I got addicted to it, and then the first time I got into trouble with it was when I was 13. Me and my friends, we stole some money to buy weed, and the lady called the police on us, and we got in trouble for theft. And then from then on, I just kept smoking weed and getting caught with it.
A lot of people steal money. A lot of people boost car radios and other things and hawk them to get money. A lot of people trade stolen goods with marijuana dealers. A lot of people sell marijuana in order to support their marijuana habit. And I hear people all the time say, well, marijuana is not addictive. And it's like, well, but you smoke it every day. You become a chronic user. You're up against the stem. And that's what chronic marijuana smokers call it. When they define somebody as being addicted or not, they say up against the stem.
You don't have to really use for a long period of time to have things start disappearing from you. I mean, I only used for a year and a half, and I lost pretty much everything I saved up for. I lost all my material objects. I lost my chance for sports. I don't get to go to normal school anymore. It's not fun.
Okay, Eric. How old are you?
16.
16? And when did you start using marijuana?
When I was 12.
When you were 12. Grades?
They were average C's and B's.
Mm-hmm.
A C's and B's student. I always got my work done no matter what it did. No matter what it took, I always did my work.
Okay, who gave you the marijuana the first time?
Two of my friends,
Mm-hmm.
or so-called friends.
Mm-hmm. And you smoked it and it felt good?
Yeah, made me laugh and eat.
When a person is immediately high on marijuana, they laugh, they giggle, they have like this permagrin thing going on. But after that initial euphoria wears off, people get kind of flat and blunted. And it's at this point that their auditory memory is most impaired. So one of the things that this can affect is people's relationship and socialization with others. This flat facial expression, this inability to really contact and be in touch with other people.
How often did you smoke?
Every day.
Every day?
As much as I could get.
Wake and bake?
Yeah, wake and bake and going to sleep. I'd have to, or I thought I had to have some weed to go to sleep.
In surveys that have been done of chronic marijuana smokers who report themselves having withdrawal syndrome, they say the number one withdrawal symptom that they have is inability to sleep at night and vivid chaotic dreams. The second most reported withdrawal syndrome is overheating, feeling that their body temperature is hot, oftentimes reflected by night sweats.
What's the biggest thing that you lost from smoking marijuana?
Not being able to talk to my family about things that were going on in the relationship with my little brother. We used to do all kinds of things together and just totally spaced him. All my life revolved around was using, getting that high, getting a bowl, getting a sack. It's all revolved around, not worrying about nothing else, how my family felt or how my family cared about me or what they thought about me. It was just trying to get that high.
When you go through all this, the bowling, the grades, the friends, the family, and you think about being focused on you, how do you feel when you talk about?
Kind of ashamed of what I did just because some little chemical. I feel ashamed.
Do you feel sad?
Yeah, I feel sad and guilty.
How old were you when you started smoking?
I was 13 when I started smoking marijuana.
And how old are you now?
I'm 17.
Okay, so you started smoking. What were the consequences of your marijuana use?
I lost being a teammate. I lost a lot of friends. And I lost a lot of respect from my family. Because I put my use before my family and all that. And I lost it all. My addiction had me. And my drug use wouldn't let go. And my friends turned their backs on me.
Did your smoking have any effects on your physical health?
Yes, like my breathing, I had shortness of breath after a while. And a lot of my stamina is gone. I can't really run that great anymore. But my lungs, I'm pretty sure they're pretty tore up from all the inhaling all of the tar and stuff.
Marijuana contains many carcinogens. The number one bad boy carcinogen that's in marijuana is called benzopyrene. Well, lo and behold, that's also the number one bad boy carcinogen that's in tobacco as well. Tashkin's research at UCLA Medical Center showed that the lungs tissue samples of typical marijuana smokers, not necessarily chronic every day, but just an average marijuana smoker here in America, showed a loss of cilia. And cilia is kind of the protective layer or coating that covers the alveolar sacs of the lungs. So with marijuana tobacco smokers, he saw even much greater loss of cilia around the alveolar sacs of the lungs, demonstrating that it has some pretty significant effects on lung tissue.
Like my memory, I have a lot of memory loss. It's a lot I need to regain and learn things I should know already.
The most significant impact that marijuana has to memory is incoming auditory memory. That can cause significant problems in a person's life, and auditory memory is the first thing to go.
Someone would tell me something and I'd forget right off the bat. I'd turn around and walk, and then boom, it's gone. I'm like, what'd you say? I don't remember. I knew it was from my use, but I mean, I'd be like, it was weird.
I get.
Did you ever think that might be permanent? That whatever that drug is doing that we think is so funny because we forget what we're doing, that it might be permanent, that's when they say short-term memory loss, that's what's happening to our brain?
Yeah.
Did you ever think about that?
Not really.
No?
Not when I was using. I was just there to achieve the high.
Marijuana is no worse than any of the other drugs of abuse, but marijuana is no better either. Oftentimes people that smoke marijuana, they'll say things like, well, some other drug is worse. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe some other drug is worse. But what you need to know about marijuana isn't significantly different than any of the other drugs of abuse, than the effects of tobacco, or some of the effects of alcohol, or some of the effects of the other drugs. It may be no worse, it may be no better. It's just like all the rest. What I would suggest to you is that all of the drugs of abuse serve really no benefit to a person that has no medical need for them.